This chapter, let's talk about 2D array. Similar to a one-dimensional array, a two-dimensional array also consists of sequence of elements, but rather than a line, the element inside a 2D array can be laid out in a rectangular grid. Let's take a look at an example of using two-dimensional array. In some languages, the multi-dimensional array is actually implemented internally as a one-dimensional array, while in some other languages, there's actually no multi-dimensional array at all. Like in C++, they store the two-dimensional array as a one-dimensional array. So this diagram overlap shows the actual structure of an n multiply n array A. So actually, A at I at j is equal to A at I multiply n plus j. If we define A as a one-dimensional array, which also contains n multiply n elements, so in principle they're the same. Let's try to use two-dimensional array in the C++. First, before the main method, we need to create something before, like a template. The template first is size, n is the row, and the size, m is the column, and define a function by void print array int ampersand a, and we have n and m into the array, and this is our function. And inside the function, we need to use two nested for loop to iterate inside it. For int I start from 0 and I less than n and plus I, and inside the row we do a for loop in the row and to print out the column. These are j is something like that, but j is less than m is inside, and plus j, and we can outprint the a at I at j and outprint the space to separate them, and then we print a line to separate them from different column. We need to empty line, and so we finish the method. Now we can use them in the main method. We just say out example 1 and line int a 5, 2 and 5. Let's print it out. Print array at array a as our parameter, but it don't work properly. We need to try to find out example 2 and line have int sb 2 and 5, and you need to assign some element like 1, 2, 3, and it's inside the first 2 is mean they have 2 row, and 5 is mean they have a 5 column print array at b, and we can print it out. Yeah, only print the first row and leave the 2 0 this default value, and leave one whole column is also default value 0. And we can print another example. Say out example 3 and line and int c. Let's leave it alone. I just notify, but just define the 5 column and leave the row below what happened, and just define 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. and we just finish. Just print array C. That's our parameter. So this time it will come to the 6 and 7. So even if we just define this like a value, it will automatically transfer go to another row and leave the default value alone, the remain value alone. So it's very interesting, right? And see out. Let's print another example. Example 4. And line and int d, leave alone, and 5. And this time we just print define 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and 7, and let's print out array D. So it will leave the last element alone, and this is like only print the first 2 and leave the remainder alone, and the second row is only take 7, and another is the default value 0. So that is how it works. However, in Java, the two-dimensional array is actually a one-dimensional array which contains m elements, by principle, each of which is an array of n integer. And the diagram overlap shows the actual structure of a two-dimensional array A in Java. So let's try to use 2D array in the Java. First, we need to define a method, main method, and inside the main method, we can have we need to define our own function, private static void, and print array. So this is our function name, an integer array, and it is A. We call it A, and inside the function we can build in such as we can for enter I is start from 0 and I less than a dot length and plus I increment I, and the system dot out dot print line a at I, and we can nest it by another for loop for enter j is 0, so from 0, and I is never equal to none, and j is less than a at I dot length and plus I, and plus j, and then inside it we can print out by system dot out dot print a at I at j plus separate by space, and we can print out by system dot out dot print line, and it works, right? Then we can continue because we finished the method, we off method, and we can call it in our main method. We just use the system dot out dot print example. So first we have an example. We have the example, and then we copy that example 1, example 2, example 3. The first example, we print out the A enter a two-dimensional array, and we call it A is a new enter is a 0 and 5 is 2 and 5, so we have a 2 row and 5 column, and we can print them out by A. So we get 0. We get 10 0, 2 row and 5 column. We have try another example. Enter B is a new enter. Let's say 2, and we leave another alone. Let's see how it works. Yeah, it will become two row none, because we don't know nothing about that. And the second example, we can try another way, like B at 0 is a new enter a 3, and B at 1 is a new enter a 5, and print B again. What happened? It become a two line. The first line is 3 0. The second line is a 5 0, because we already knew they have two row, and then we divide the 2 row separately. This is how it in the Java work. And another thing worth to mention is dynamic 2D array. It is similar to one-dimensional dynamic array, which can also define a dynamic two-dimensional array. Actually, it can be just a nested dynamic array.